Welcome everybody to a new JavaScript tip. Objects belong to the most important data structures in JavaScript. In today's video, I'm going to show you a nice feature called Object Destructuring. Object Destructuring allows us to write more readable code and makes it easier to extract properties from an object. Imagine an Iron Man object that contains two properties, a first name property and a last name property. We now want to extract the first name and the last name property into constants and lock them to the console. So traditionally, we would go ahead and write const first name, which is equal to ironman.firstname. And we would do the same for the last name. We successfully extracted those properties into constants, which we can now lock to the console. If we run this code, Tony and Stark gets printed to the console. In the introduction to this video, I promised you that we will learn some nice tips on how to improve the readability of our code. So time to use Object Destructuring to improve the code we just wrote. So instead of extracting each property individually, we can convert this into a one-liner using Object Destructuring. So to use Object Destructuring, we use the curly brackets around the first name. And we don't want to destructure from ironman.firstname, but from ironman. By using this syntax, we extract the value of the first name property on the ironman object and assign it to a new variable called first name. Of course, we can do the same for the last name, and we don't need this line anymore. So this code is equivalent to the code we previously had. If we would go ahead and run this, Tony Stark is still locked. But be aware that the name of our constant needs to match the property key. So if we would extract this into a name constant and then also lock the name constant, we would get Tony and undefined, because our Ironman object doesn't contain a name property. So does it mean that we can only use property keys as variable names? Actually not, because the object destructuring syntax allows us to map a key to a variable name. So let's take this case where we want to destructure the last name into a name variable. Destructuring allows us to first type the property key which we want to extract and then use a double point followed by the variable name which we want to assign the value to. So in our case we say, please extract the last name property from the Ironman object and assign it to a new constant named name. If we now run this code, Tony Stark gets printed again. There's another cool destructuring feature which I want to show you. Imagine we also want to extract a universe. So there are various universes when it comes to superheroes. There is the DC universe or the Marvel universe. So let's say we want to extract and lock a universe. In this case, we will get undefined because, again, the Ironman object doesn't contain a universe property. But destructuring allows us to use the equal sign and assign a default value. So whenever a property key is null or undefined, the default value will be printed. So in our case, Marvel will be printed. So those are the basics of destructuring. But destructuring is not only useful when declaring variables, it's especially also useful in function signatures. So let's write a lock hero function that locks our hero's first name, the name and the universe. So we can wrap our lock statements with this lock hero function. Now, how do we get access to the first name, name and the universe? Well, we can use the exact same destructuring statement that we made here on top to declare constants inside the function signature. Whenever we now call the lock hero function with our Ironman object, the properties get automatically destructured and assigned to a variable. So if we run this code, again, Tony Stark and Marvel gets printed. Object destructuring is a very nice feature that makes your code easier to maintain and improves readability. If you found this video useful, please subscribe to my YouTube channel to not miss any future tips.